Hello, everybody. Kurt Rish here, and thank you for joining me on One Shepherd. So, today we are continuing our reading of the New Testament with the third epistle of John, and we are reading the introduction. Struggles with the forces outside the church can be harmful enough, but struggles within a church can be devastating. 3rd John was written in response to one such struggle within a local church. One of the church leaders, Diotrephes, had asserted control over the congregation to such an extent that he was prohibiting representatives of other churches from ministering to his congregation. Worse yet, he began driving away members of his own church who dared to help the representatives after he had refused to accept them. Diotrephes' actions violated Christ's command to love one another. This was not a case of doctrinal deviation, but of moral failure. However, it was as much a threat to the life of the church as the false teaching addressed in 1 John and 2 John. Faithful members of the church community were being hurt by Diotrephes' arrogant attitude. The Apostle John felt the need to deal with the problem and was planning a personal visit. In the meantime, the letter's recipients, Gaius, needed encouragement and Demetrius needed support in his ministry. About the author and date. As with 1 John and 2 John, the author of this epistle is generally accepted to be the Apostle John. Similarities among the letters and early church tradition speak strongly of John's authorship, although some have proposed that there were 2 Johns, the apostle and a church leader known as the elder. The consensus remains that the apostle wrote this letter. No information is given within the epistle to indicate its date. The circumstances addressed in 3 John is markedly different from that of John's first 2 letters, and it's not possible to say whether it was written before or after 1 and 2 John. The letter was probably sent from Ephesus, where early church tradition says John located his ministry following the fall of Jerusalem in AD 70. About the recipient. The recipient of the letter was a Christian named Gaius, though no other record of him has been found to date. He was likely a member of one of the churches in Asia Minor, to which John's influence had spread during his Ephesian ministry. He seems to have had the resources to show hospitality to itinerant preachers, and he was certainly a prominent and trustworthy person to whom John could give the task of standing firm against the authoritarianism of Diotrephes until the apostle could come to deal with the problem himself. The background of this epistle is similar to that of John's first 2 epistles, though the problem threatening the addressees of 3 John is made clearer from the content of the letter. The early church had practice of sending out itinerant ministers as messengers of the apostles or the churches. These men would minister in local church for a period of time, providing spiritual encouragement and doctrinal instruction. They were the equivalent of our modern evangelists, ministers, and missionaries who travel from their home churches to provide teaching and encouragement to other believers. Itinerant ministers were expected to know and teach the doctrine of the apostles, and while they were with the church, the community of the Christians benefiting from their ministry was expected to support them. Titus' ministry as Paul's representative to the church in Corinth and to the churches of Crete is an example of this. As the itinerant ministers traveled from one place of ministry to the next, they would seek assistance and comfort from the churches of the communities through which they passed. This practice is reflected in Paul's instructions to Titus to assist Zenas and Apollos as they traveled. As is true today, some leaders, filled with personal ambition instead of the love of Christ, sought to control their local congregations with an iron hand. In this case, a man named Diotrephes was trying to assert his leadership even against the apostles. Diotrephes had asserted his influence and was driving out legitimate representatives of the apostles in order to maintain his personal control. In verse 7, John is referring to a group of itinerant Christian missionaries. They are ministering for his name's sake. Jesus is the means and motivation for taking the good news to the world. That is, after all, why their missionaries were on the move and in need of Christian hospitality and fellowship. Without such, they would have no place to stay. And then we have a brief outline of 3 John. Guys, that's it. Thanks for joining us. May you have a great day, and God bless.